Let's talk about new players, detection and prevention. Prepare for the worst. Do you have a clear understanding of your cyber posture? What's out there? Effective network protections and tools for your IT staff, which is to say, are they being brought up to speed? And by the way, this does include training. In conjunction with APCO, I'll be running a training down in Florida in September, which is aimed at IT professionals, so that we are continuing to bring up our skills to be ready with the next generation. Cybersecurity policies and preventative practices. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, in that ongoing cyber training, do not ignore your end users. Phishing attacks especially. We need to protect against phishing attacks. Well, that's the end user. That's not your IT staff. We need to train them how. Cybersecurity policies and preventative practices, and cyber incident response plans. In case everything goes wrong, a cyber incident response plan is your friend. And let me be really honest about this. They're all the same. You just have to have them and know them. It happened to us. We got a new client. Sure enough, they got attacked literally days after we installed. And the good news is that they knew who to call. They called us. The bad news is it was Christmas Eve. I was the only person here. I wasn't familiar with the client. That didn't matter. All I did was go through the process. If you have a good cyber incident response plan, the process will walk you through and get you through and get it all fixed. These are all critical for your cyber health. Best mitigation methods for ransomware, backups. We say it every month. Backup, backup, backup. Maintain a comprehensive incident response plan. We have a webinar on incident response plans. So please go ahead and go through that. Preventative architecture techniques. Make sure that you're designed for it. Endpoint protection, employee training and awareness, which again, we do offer, but so do other people. Make sure that you're using that. Conduct annual vulnerability assessments. Again, we offer those, so do others. We're just the best at it. That's our approach. But make sure that you are doing annual vulnerability assessments and continuous behavior-based cybersecurity monitoring. Make sure that people are looking. And don't trust the bad guys. By definition, the people who installed the ransomware are criminals. You are, if you give them the money, you are trusting a criminal to give you back your data. They're criminals. We know that. And determine what needs to be backed up. Again, we talk about backups every month for a good reason. Are your insurance policies backed up? Are your employee records backed up? Your payroll and financial data? Because I got to tell you, if people don't get paid, that doesn't last long. And we have seen instances where people couldn't be paid, and that became a huge problem. Equipment apps, messaging apps, system images. If you're an ECC, a 911 emergency communication center, your GIS data, your mapping data is crucial, as is your geospatial data. What floor are things on? We need to be able to find the people calling in for help or texting in for help or however they contact us. That data needs to be backed up because that data is directly related to your CAD and saves lives. It doesn't matter what data you decide needs to be backed up. Just be sure to write down your recovery plan for that data. Zero trust. Now, again, we've actually done 2 different webinars on zero trust. There's a lot of information. And the truth is that zero trust is a process, not an endpoint. If you get 80% of the way to zero trust, you are so far ahead of where you are before you start. You're 0.2 trust. You're 20% trust. A zero trust framework views every connection and endpoint as a threat. So you monitor, capture, and review all network data, and you limit access and permissions so that we know the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how of your data, and verifies and secures all network resources. So what's your incident response plan? Again, having an incident response plan and a written one. I tell this story all the time. We had somebody who contacted us who was not actually a client who got hit, but they found out about us. They contacted us to help them with their remediation. And we said to them, so what's your incident response plan look like? Do you have one? They said, oh yeah, we do have one. Unfortunately, it's on the server that's down right now because of the ransomware. I hate paper as much as the next geek. I prefer to do everything electronically, all of my bills, all of everything. This is the one thing that must be on paper in case you can't get to the data center where you have it. And it won't necessarily stop an attack, but it will mitigate the damage. It will cut your costs and your time. So go ahead and make an incident response plan. Again, we do have a webinar on that. Go back and look through it. And continuity of operations plans. In March of 2020, it was plausible that people didn't have a COOP. After March of 2020 and COVID, we all have COOPs. We need COOPs. We need contingency plans. But make sure that it's up to date. We've all learned lessons in these last 3 years. We've all learned how we can make our COOPs better. Go ahead and go back through and do that. And consider cyber insurance, not for paying ransom. Cyber insurance that pays ransom is not useful. But cyber insurance can help pay for remediation. And they will have a list of vendors that they accept. The good news is those vendors have been vetted. They know what they're doing. So cyber insurance is useful. Do your risk assessment. As I've said, we do them. We specialize in 911. And what that means is that we know what 911 networks look like. And so we know what's a real vulnerability for 911 versus other things. But it's okay if it's not us. We are not the only provider in town, let alone in the country. So it's okay. I don't really care who does it. Make sure somebody does it. We need to have a really good annual assessment that tells us what's going on. Again, ours focuses specifically on 911, but we do them for other industries too. And we use the NIST standards for identifying what we're looking at. Cybersecurity awareness training makes you up to 40% safer. Hackers know how to trick people, and unsafe practices are commonplace. We all do them. Let's be honest here. Who among us has never done something and said, I really shouldn't do that. I'll do it anyway. Indeed, on this one, geeks might be worse than everyone else because we feel invulnerable. We know what we're looking at. And then we go ahead and we do dangerous things. Your people are your first line of defense. Make sure that whoever works for you, if they have access to email, they're a vulnerability. Well, we all have email. We all have work email. We have to do our jobs, to set our schedules. We all have work email. They're your first line of defense. Make sure that they're trained in how to be your first line of defense. And continuous monitoring. Employ independent assessors. Pardon me, independent matters. We're a security company. We go through a security assessment every year that's not run by us, because there are any number of times that I, as the person who set things up, will say, yeah, I know that's okay. It's really not okay. You need an independent assessment and an independent monitor to make sure that people who aren't necessarily the people who set it up are looking at it to ask the questions.